Welcome to Sam Outside. I'm Sam and I'm outside catching those valuable last minutes of sunlight. That's right. Take advantage of finding moments of calm while in nature, making some nature connections, smelling, listening, and taking advantage of changes, fractals of light, the play between light and dark. And as you can see, weather's getting colder and there's a skim of ice out there in the middle of Heart Lake, which is bringing the beaver. It's keeping them a little closer to shore. And yeah, there are three of them. Mr. Indiana Bones, the dog, he's out there running along the shoreline. They're keeping him busy, and that's okay. He's getting his exercise. That's what he needs to do. So the beaver have been quite active, and they've got precious little time to continue gathering their resources. And for me, something to watch. Something to admire. Yeah. Get to see their browsing through the forest. Get to see their cache. That's just a little bit further down the shore. And they've got a number of them along the shoreline. And these beaver don't actually have a lodge here on the lake. There's enough rock faces on the opposite side. And I've seen evidence in other winters where rather than building a lodge, they're going to find their safety and security and their warmth inside spaces that they'll dig out in the rock face. Also an advantage when they have that sort of terrain to keep away from predators. So for the beaver, especially in this area, who are not trapped or managed by wildlife authorities, it's the wolves that really regulate the population. They're the only natural predator to the beaver. And so I know that there aren't a lot of wolves in the area. There are a lot of beaver, not only here on Heart Lake, where I have a chance to visit daily, but I work at another small body of water where there are a number of beaver, and their population has been steady and their impact is present. And in outdoor education, it gives me something to teach about, right? Just gives me one other animal to share with our guests. And that fact alone tells me that there isn't a very good wolf population enough to manage them. So in winter, the wolves will make a habit of finding an active beaver lodge, and with the security of the ice, they're able to make their way across, and they've got nothing but time to tear away at the beaver lodge, getting access to the beaver. And when there is a good layer of ice, there are not so many holes and not so much time that the beaver can spend the safety of the ice without coming up for air, which means usually back in the lodge. And especially if they've got young, then they won't be in the habit of holding their breath as long. So the beaver are active, the ice is forming, and you get to catch some of those red wavelengths, which are the most beneficial for my own body. So spending time outside, being mindful, getting some exercise, doing what I need to do to be responsible for the dog, get to enjoy wildlife. And if I don't actually get a chance to see wildlife, then I have a chance to find other signs, right? And it could be their scat, could be their tracks and trails, could be signs of browsing. And one of the things I like to share with the students and guests at my facility is when I see wildlife, it's because that wildlife has decided to be seen. All manner of life in the forest has the adaptations to hear, smell, see, literally feel our presence long before we get a chance to see them. So when we do see wildlife, it's because that animal has decided it can either get away from us or can manage us. And so when we're in a group, there aren't any animals in our forest that will take the risk of managing us. But just myself and the dog, yeah, there might be a couple members of the wildlife community that will decide that that might be another option. So if you look here behind me, that is a nice drag line, right? I'm standing literally on it. So this is a path that was not here a day ago. And it's just proof and evidence that the beaver have been so active that they've been able to have a pretty good drag line, pulling their brush out of the forest back down to the shoreline, dragging it to their cache. And that cache is going to be their winter stores, their winter food for the rest of the season. So they don't hibernate, but they feed off deciduous trees. So in order to have food, they have to drag as much deciduous plant life, small trees and shrubs as they can, to one pile, which they can access throughout the winter under the ice, where it's still safe. So the 3 beaver that are quite active and very active here in Heart Lake have got quite a pile. So you can see all the mud here that they've dragged up. Mr. Indiana Bones, still quite curious and driven. Bit of a distraction. So a little bit of playtime for him, a little bit of a deterrent, maybe keep them well engaged. Give them something to think about without the presence and risk of wolves, a little chance to practice what it is to avoid predation by trying to get away from my dog. That's right, trying to keep them on their toes. He's not at any risk, but I will keep an eye on him. Well, it's impressive to see their work, how a small woodland creature or rodent can literally change forests and change habitat while creating its own habitat out of necessity. So that's what a beaver pond is. It's a big refrigerator. And the door is the dam that it'll build along a flowing body of water. But here on a lake, doesn't really need to build a dam or waste time or resources doing that. It's simply going to have a number of food caches where it makes sense to access for the rest of the year under the ice. So at one time, the beaver were quite prolific. I wouldn't say that they're a species at risk, especially in my area of Ontario here in Canada. So a bit of a national symbol for hard work, perseverance, something to admire for sure. Well, I appreciate the time of you watching this. Bit of a nature moment. Don't get a chance to share it that often, but when I do, yeah, I'll stick around and spend some time. Don't often get to do it with the dog either, so got to hear his voice. Not a loud dog, but he was tonight. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.